Good morning, everyone. It's nice to be with you another time for your online pilgrimage. And this week we are looking at the question, exploring it together, can we trust the Bible? My name is Clare Williams, and I am the founder of Get Real, which is a Christian organisation that looks at questions like this, question and objections to the Christian faith, particularly questions that arise from the Black community or Black experience. So great to be with you today. If you want to check out what I do, go to realquestions.co.uk or getreal321. So we're looking today again at can we trust the Bible? And I was just explaining yesterday that sometimes it's a struggle to read our Bibles, and we may even question the veracity of the Bible. Is it true? Just when we're going through difficult seasons in particular. And we were thinking very briefly about the different genres of the Bible, apocalyptic literature, sort of the gospel accounts of Jesus' life, historical accounts of the past and Israel's past. We think about maybe some romantic genres in the Song of Solomon or the Song of Songs, or just other types of genres in the Bible, and how actually as a whole that speaks to the human experience. The Bible is an incarnational text. It's speaking to the human experience, not just telling us how good or great God is, but how complex we are as human beings. And so today we're going to think about the objection to the Bible, which often comes in the form of, surely, come on guys, the Bible is just a myth, you know, it's a fairy tale, it's just been made up to oppress people, the Bible isn't true, we can't take it seriously. So we're going to think about that objection, and sometimes that comes from people who aren't Christians and want to question it, and we should be questioning things. And sometimes you may well be a Christian listening to this and have questions about whether the Bible can be trusted. Is it just a made up book? And so wherever you are on that spectrum, I'm hoping that today is helpful for you. So we can think of two ways to respond to this objection. And one way is looking at sort of the textual integrity of the Bible. And the second way is to look at the historicity or the historical reliability of the Bible. So we're going to do the first one today and the second one tomorrow. So the textual integrity of the Bible. What do I mean by that? So we're thinking about the transmission of the Bible down through time and down through the ages. You know, was it passed down accurately, the text of the Bible? Was it, are there glaring problems? Is it full of conspiracy theory? Has there been tampering, or is it a fake? So thinking about the text, we're not thinking about the content or the theological claims today, just the text. Can we trust the textual integrity of the Bible? And actually there's a huge scholarly discipline or academic discipline called textual criticism, which does just that. It looks at texts from history and runs a few tests. So looking at internal tests of those texts, looking at external tests, and how we can make an informed judgment about the reliability of a text. So that is called textual criticism. It's an actual discipline that scholars who are Christian and who are not actually do. So just to make it clear, when we're thinking about texts from the past, texts from antiquity, from the ancient Greco-Roman world, we're thinking about copies, okay? Just because of the way the historical cookie has crumbled, we don't have originals, we only have copies. And that's the benchmark for texts from antiquity. So for instance, a lot of what we know about the Greco-Roman world comes from a source called Tacitus. Tacitus's Annals. So we use him as a great source to know to find out what we know about the Greco-Roman world. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired today. And so he is a source that we go to, but we only have copies of his work, and we take his work seriously. Another work is by Suetonius, and that's about the life of Tiberius. So these texts are copies, and they form a lot of what we know about the ancient world. So copies are the benchmark. Now, similarly, the New Testament texts are copies. They are manuscript copies of the originals. We don't have them, and they arise out of the same time, the same conditions of the Greco-Roman world. And so what this does, what the discipline of textual criticism does for us, is it encourages us to take seriously and to place on a level playing field the text of the Bible and the text that we have from antiquity. So we're not talking about whether the Bible is true, theologically true, just the texts themselves. They're on the same level playing field as these other texts from history. And an interesting thing about this is the dating. So what we have in history is an event that happens, then we have someone writing about it and recording it, and then we have the earliest copy of the manuscript. So three things: the event, the writing, and then the earliest copy of the manuscript. And obviously the gaps between each one of those three things, if they're smaller, then it's going to suggest more textual reliability. We can trust that text some more. So just to give you an example, if you see a crime today, and it's best for you to write about what you saw today, even tomorrow, even the next day. If you write about what you saw 50 years from now, it doesn't mean that what you have to say isn't helpful, but we're probably going to be you'll probably be more believed, you're probably getting more accurate information if you wrote about it today. Now, in historical text, the gaps between when events happened, when people wrote about them, and the earliest copies we have are huge. That is just, again, the benchmark. So for instance, Tacitus' Annals, what he writes about the reign of Tiberius, was written after the reign of Tiberius in about AD 110. And the earliest copy we have is from the 9th century. So those gaps are pretty big. If we think about the Gospel of Mark, for instance, written anywhere between AD the 50s and the late 70s, and I've included more conservative and liberal dating for the book of Mark, the Gospel of Mark, between AD 50 to 70s. The earliest copy we have is actually from the 4th century. So what we see is, when we take historical texts or secular texts, if you will, about history, the gaps between when they were written and the earliest copies we have are quite large. When we look at the New Testament text, so for instance, the Gospels, for instance, the gaps are much smaller. Now that is something that warrants further investigation. I've got a little book here. I'll read this quote from Peter J. Williams. It's called "Can We Trust the Gospels?" We'll put this into the comment for this video here. And he says this: apart from Velleius Paterculus, who was contemporary with Tiberius, listen to this, all the sources about Tiberius came 80 or more years after the events they narrate. The earliest copies came much later, and the works have far less manuscript attestation than do the Gospels. As we will see below, almost certainly the Gospels are much closer to the activities of Jesus than 80 years. So there's something compelling about the fact that the time at which the events of the Gospels record, the time at which they were written, and the earliest copies we have are much smaller than other texts that we take seriously. Okay, we go to university to study these things, we take them seriously. And so I hope that's helpful today to think about the fact that the Bible wasn't just concocted by some mogul sitting down to, out of its time, trying to oppress people and making it up as they go along. Actually, textual criticism gives us a reason to believe that the texts of the Bible are authentically coming from a time around which the events that they describe. So we're going to go tomorrow we're going to go into some more of the historical reliability of the Bible, but we'll stop there for now. In fact, we won't stop there for now. I'll just read one more thing, which I think is really interesting. That again, along with this sort of academic scholarship that kind of backs up the idea that the Bible can be trusted textually, is this great book by Dr. John Dixon. It's called Is Jesus History? And he talks about different encyclopedias or historical compendiums that describe the life of Jesus, and they don't feel that the Gospels are lying about what Jesus has to say. They might refute some of maybe the supernatural claims, but that generally they're supporting at least the timeline of Jesus' life, which comes primarily from the Gospel accounts. And this is what he says: it is skeptical. So one encyclopedia, Brill's New Pauli Encyclopedia of the Ancient World, this encyclopedia is skeptical about a lot of the things in the Gospels. It has no interest in propping up the Christian faith, but nor does it express even the slightest doubt about Jesus' existence. the basic themes of his teaching, his reputation as a healer, and crucifixion. And he says none of these 5 works are theological or even remotely religious. So my point is that the information that I'm giving you today is not necessarily coming from Christian scholars wanting to share and prop up the Christian faith. This is coming from secular scholarship, attesting to at least the life of Jesus and what he was doing. And we're going to look some more into some of the historical reliability tomorrow. So what this does is say to us, it offers some challenge to the claim or the objection that the Bible was just made up. It offers some challenge to that. Does it mean that Christianity is true? Does it mean that Jesus rose from the dead? It doesn't, but it offers some challenge as to why we can trust the Bible as at least an authentic text from history. I hope that's helpful for you today, and tomorrow we'll be back looking at some more things. Have a good day, everyone.